Imagine this scenario. It's the late 1990s. You are a high-ranking diplomat from Japan or Israel, two of America's closest, most trusted military allies. You fly to Washington, D.C. with a blank check in your pocket. Your mission is simple. Modernize your Air Force with the absolute best fighter jet money can buy. You don't want the F-15. You don't want the F-16. You want the future. You want the F-22 Raptor. You put billions of dollars on the table. You argue that selling you this jet will secure the region against threats like North Korea or Iran. It seems like a win-win. American defense contractors get rich and allies get stronger. But the answer you get from the Pentagon isn't just a no. It is a hard, absolute, and non-negotiable rejection. In fact, the U.S. government goes so far as to pass a specific law, the Obey Amendment, literally making it illegal for anyone, even the President of the United States, to authorize the export of this specific aircraft. Fast forward to today. The F-35 Lightning II is being sold to over a dozen countries. The F-15EX is on the market. But the F-22 Raptor, it remains the forbidden fruit of military aviation, locked away in hangars guarded by strict federal laws and flown exclusively by pilots with top-secret clearance. Why? What is hiding inside this jet that is so sensitive, America would rather cancel the production line than let a single unit leave its borders? Is it the stealth, the engines, or is it something far more terrifying? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are cracking open the classified file on the F-22 Raptor to understand why, decades after its first flight, it is still the only fighter jet in the world that money cannot buy. To understand the paranoia surrounding the F-22, we first have to look at a catastrophic mistake from the past, a mistake named the F-14 Tomcat. In the 1970s, the F-14 was the pride of the U.S. Navy. It was a technological marvel, featuring the powerful AWG-9 radar and the deadly Phoenix missiles. America felt confident enough to sell 79 of these jets to Iran, which at the time was a close ally under the Shah. But then, 1979 happened. The Iranian Revolution toppled the Shah, and overnight, America's cutting-edge air superiority fighter fell into the hands of a hostile Islamic Republic. Technicians from the Soviet Union were eventually invited to inspect the F-14S, allowing America's Cold War rival to study its radar and missile technology up close. It was an intelligence disaster of epic proportions, and the Pentagon swore, "Never again." When the Advanced Tactical Fighter program, which birthed the F-22, began, the mindset had changed. The F-22 wasn't designed just to be better than Soviet jets. It was designed to be fundamentally unfair. It was built to achieve first look, first shot, first kill, in an environment where the enemy wouldn't even know they were in a fight until they were exploding. By 1997, when the F-22 first took to the skies, Congress realized they had created a monster. This wasn't just a plane, it was a strategic asymmetrical advantage. Representative David Obey, fearing that sensitive stealth technology could leak to China or Russia through espionage if the jet were exported, sponsored an amendment to the 1998 Department of Defense Appropriations Act. The text was simple but brutal. None of the funds made available in this act may be used to approve or license the sale of the F-22 Advanced Tactical Fighter to any foreign government. That single sentence killed the dreams of the Japanese Air Self-Defense Force and the Israeli Air Force. But what exactly were they trying to protect? This brings us to the machine itself. Let's talk about stealth, but not the kind of stealth you hear about on the news. Most people think stealth is just about the shape of the plane, the sharp angles and internal weapons bays. And yes, the F-22's shape is a masterpiece of geometry designed to scatter radar waves. But the F-35 has a similar shape, and we sell that to everyone. The real secret, the one that keeps Pentagon generals awake at night, is the coating. The F-22 Raptor is covered in a specialized, highly classified radar-absorbent material, or RAM. Unlike the RAM used on the exportable F-35, which is designed to be durable and easier to maintain, the F-22's coating is believed to be significantly more effective across a wider band of radar frequencies, which we are talking about broadband stealth. Most stealth fighters are optimized to hide from high-frequency fire control radars, the kind that lock onto you to shoot a missile. The F-22, however, is rumored to have superior capabilities against low-frequency search radars as well, the kind that usually spots stealth aircraft from a distance. This coating is incredibly fragile, it's toxic, it requires climate-controlled hangars, and its chemical composition is one of the most guarded secrets in the U.S. military-industrial complex. If a single sample of this RAM were to be scraped off an exported F-22 and analyzed by a Chinese or Russian lab, it could potentially help them calibrate their radars to detect American aircraft. Imagine the nightmare scenario. The U.S. sells an F-22 to an ally. That ally has a rogue technician or a spy, who scrapes a few grams of the coating into a vial. Within weeks, the entire advantage of the U.S. Air Force's stealth fleet is compromised. That is a risk the Obey Amendment was designed to prevent. But stealth is just the wrapper. What's underneath the skin is even more revolutionary. But stealth is only half the equation. To truly dominate the sky, you need speed, and you need the ability to move in ways that defy physics. This brings us to the beating heart of the Raptor, the Pratt & Whitney F119 engines. If you look at the back of an F-15 or an F-16, you see round exhaust nozzles. If you look at the back of an F-35, you see a round nozzle. But look at the F-22. The nozzles are rectangular. They are flat. This isn't an aesthetic choice. It's a masterclass in engineering. These are two D-thrust vectoring nozzles. They can pitch up or down by 20 degrees in a split second. This allows the F-22 to perform maneuvers that are simply impossible for other jets. It can fly in one direction while pointing its nose in another. It can pull a Cobra maneuver, stopping in midair to let an enemy fly right past it, and then drop the nose and fire a missile into their tail. While the Russian Su-35 and Su-57 also have thrust vectoring, some even have 3D vectoring, the F-22's design is unique because it integrates this agility with high-end stealth. The flat nozzles also serve a critical defensive purpose. They suppress the heat signature of the engines. In modern aerial warfare, heat-seeking missiles are just as dangerous as radar-guided ones. By flattening the exhaust plume and mixing it with cool air, the Raptor becomes much harder to track with infrared sensors. The U.S. government knows that engine technology is the hardest thing to reverse engineer, but also the most valuable. If a nation like China got their hands on an F-119 engine, their own jet fighter program would leap forward by 20 years overnight. That is a gap the Pentagon refuses to close. Now the critics will ask, is the F-22 still relevant? What about the Russian Su-57 Felon? What about China's J-20 Mighty Dragon? Let's look at the facts. The Russian Su-57 is a beast. It's fast, it's maneuverable, and it carries a heavy payload. But strictly speaking, many analysts consider it a stealth-ish fighter, not a true ghost. If you look closely at high-resolution photos of the Su-57, you see exposed rivets, round engine nozzles that glow like bonfires on infrared, and panel gaps that reflect radar waves. It is built for a dogfight like a boxer. The F-22, in contrast, is an assassin. In a real-world scenario, the F-22 would likely see the Su-57 and shoot it down before the Russian pilot even knew he was being targeted. Then there is China's J-20. This is a much more serious threat. It is designed with a similar philosophy to the F-22, stealth and range. However, the J-20 utilizes canards, those small extra wings near the cockpit. While great for lift, canards are notoriously bad for stealth because they act like radar reflectors when they move. Furthermore, the J-20 is widely believed to be underpowered compared to the Raptor, struggling to achieve supercruise, the ability to fly at supersonic speeds without using fuel-guzzling afterburners. The F-22 remains the only fighter in the world that combines true all-aspect broadband stealth, supercruise capability at Mach 1.8, and extreme agility. It is the gold standard. And you don't sell the gold standard to your competitors or even your friends because today's friend could be tomorrow's neutral party. We have talked about the skin and the muscle, but we haven't talked about the brain. And this is where the no export rule becomes even more understandable. Inside the nose of the Raptor sits the AN/APG-77 radar. But calling it a radar is an insult. It is an active electronically scanned array, AESA, that can do things that sound like science fiction. It can track multiple targets instantly without moving a mechanical dish. It can act as a Wi-Fi router, sending data to other jets. But most terrifyingly, it can arguably be used as an electronic warfare weapon. There are reports suggesting the F-22 can focus its radar energy so intensely that it can fry the electronics of an enemy missile or sensor, effectively blinding the enemy with a beam of invisible energy. All of this data flows into the CIP, the Common Integrated Processor. Back in the 1990s, this was a supercomputer in the sky. It takes information from the radar warning receivers, and the data link, and fuses it into a single, simple picture for the pilot. The pilot doesn't have to interpret raw data. The plane does it for him. This is called sensor fusion. While the F-35 has a newer, more modern version of this, the F-22's specific source code and electronic warfare libraries are tailored specifically for high-intensity dominance. Sharing this software with an ally means sharing the source code. And once the source code is out, it is vulnerable to hacking. However, being the best comes with a heavy price. And this is the part of the story that hurts. The F-22 is dying, and in some ways, America killed it. Despite being the undisputed king of the skies, the F-22 program was killed. And it wasn't killed by a Russian missile or a Chinese radar. It was killed by the US Congress. In the late 2000s, the world looked very different. The Soviet Union was long gone. China's military rise was still in its infancy. The United States was bogged down in wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The logic at the Pentagon was simple. You don't need a $150 million stealth fighter designed to kill Soviet interceptors when you are fighting insurgents in pickup trucks. Defense Secretary Robert Gates famously capped the production at 187 aircraft. He argued that the F-22 was a niche weapon for a war that would never happen. Instead, they bet the farm on the cheaper, multi-role F-35. In 2011, the final F-22 Raptor rolled off the assembly line at Lockheed Martin, and the tooling was packed up, the supply chain was dissolved, and the workers moved on. It is now viewed by many military historians as one of the most short-sighted strategic decisions in modern history. Because less than a decade later, great power competition returned. Russia became aggressive in Europe, and China began pumping out J-20S. Suddenly, the US Air Force realized they didn't have enough Raptors. So why not just turn the factory back on? If the F-22 is so good, and we need more of them, why not build more? This is the tragedy of the Raptor. It is technically impossible to restart production. While the physical tooling, the jigs and molds, was stored in shipping containers at the Sierra Army Depot, the human supply chain is gone. The F-22 contains over 30,000 distinct parts. Many of the original vendors who made those specific valves, processors, and composites have gone out of business or moved on to F-35 production. Furthermore, the electronics inside the F-22 are ancient by modern standards. The core processors run on architecture from the early 90s. To build a new F-22 today, you would have to completely redesign the avionics, essentially building a new plane inside the old shell. The Air Force estimated that restarting the line would cost upwards of $10 billion just for the startup costs, resulting in a price tag of over $200 million per plane. It's simply too expensive to look back. The only way is forward. The F-22 will eventually retire. The airframes are being flown hard, and the stealth coating requires constant, expensive maintenance. But the spirit of the Raptor, the philosophy of absolute dominance and secrecy, is being transferred to its successor. It's called NGAD, Next Generation Air Dominance. This is the U.S. Air Force's sixth-generation fighter program. If the F-22 is a ninja, NGAD is a ghost. It is designed to fight in a world where stealth is not enough. It will likely feature laser weapons, advanced heat management that makes it invisible even to infrared, and it won't fly alone. It will be the quarterback for a team of AI-driven drones called Loyal Wingmen. The technology developed for NGAD is so sensitive that the F-22's no export rule will almost certainly apply to it as well. The US learned its lesson. When you have the ultimate weapon, you keep it in the family. The F-22 Raptor occupies a strange place in history. It is a weapon of war that has never truly fought the war it was designed for. It was built to dogfight over Moscow, but it spent its career patrolling the Pacific and dropping bombs in Syria. Yet its legacy is undeniable. It set the standard that every other nation is still trying to catch up to. It remains the only fighter jet in the world that is literally too good to share. It is a symbol of American engineering prowess, and a reminder that in the world of aerial warfare, there is the F-22, and then there is everything else. And that is why the Raptor will likely remain forbidden until the day it is finally laid to rest in a museum. If you enjoyed this deep dive into military aviation, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We are decoding the world's most powerful machines every week, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Smash that like button to help this video break through the algorithm's radar. And I want to hear from you in the comments below. Which legendary weapon system should we analyze next? The A-10 Warthog, the SR-71 Blackbird, or maybe the mysterious B-21 Raider? Let me know down there, and I'll see you in the next mission.